It seems like there's an incredible variety of advanced terrain here at Crested Butte, Colorado. But it's less convenient to get here, and it's smaller than other major Colorado resorts. So should you bother? Well, let's cover some of the pros and cons of a ski or snowboard trip to Crested Butte. You can divide the advanced terrain into 3 areas. The north face, which is on the left side of the trail map and accessible by the north face T-bar, the top center of the trail map, which is accessible by the high lift T-bar, and the right side of the trail map, which is accessible by the Silver Queen Express chairlift. These 3 areas are a mix of black and double black diamond terrain, and maybe it's the time of year I'm here and what they've chosen to groom and not to groom, but I'm impressed by the variety. Let's sample each of them to show you what I mean.
All right, banana. So this is what I was talking about in terms of varied terrain. If you see up behind me, if you traverse a little bit up, which I didn't want to do, you have a little bit of open terrain that can take you right down into this, which is banana. Trees on the left, trees on the right. You're forced to go down the center. Looks like some bumps, but totally different than over on the north face. So really banana, as I'm doing it, is just a narrow bump run. Get some nice change of scenery from some of the other advanced terrain on the other faces. So you really kind of have to take a very tight line. All right, continuing along banana here, I switched camera positions on my helmet because I had it on the right side, which was actually twisting my head a bit too much in this type of terrain. So I think moving it to a more central position is easier on my head and neck and probably makes a better shot for this slope. So, banana, kind of a fun slope. And as we'll talk about later, all of this town here, that's all Mount Crested Butte, which is different than the town of Crested Butte, which is around the corner and you can't see right now. The inconvenience of getting to Crested Butte is a con. But what do I mean by that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just that if you're flying to Denver, you either need to take a connecting flight, which isn't even 30 minutes long, or you're gonna have to drive for 4 hours. That extra expense and time can dissuade people from coming. It's more effort than it takes to get to Breckenridge, Keystone, Copper, or Arapahoe Basin. For those resorts, you fly to Denver and it's simply a 2-hour car ride. Unless there's bad traffic, it could be more, but still it's probably not gonna be longer than it takes to drive to Crested Butte. So how did I find the extra inconvenience? Well, it's pretty simple. I took the connecting flight to Gunnison and rented a car. The car cost me $450 for 5 days. You probably run into the same expense if you're renting at Denver and driving to one of the closer resorts. And you can get that cost down if you take a transfer service from Gunnison to the resort. Or alternatively, Uber and Lyft. I looked into them and Uber always was around $85. When I got to the airport, Lyft was over $280. But doing a quick search on Google and looking at the results made me question how reliable Lyft and Uber are up here in Crested Butte. The only comments I saw said they're hard to find. And when you're trying to catch a flight, that's a problem. So despite the prices and the app saying that there were cars available, I didn't want to take a chance. But if you have experience with Lyft and Uber between Gunnison and Crested Butte, definitely leave a comment below. And then in the Silver Queen area, you have your standard issue bump slopes. So great variety of stuff when you combine it all together.
Obviously, there are other Colorado resorts that require a longer drive or a connecting flight. Telluride, Steamboat. And while Crested Butte is smaller, the fact that it generally doesn't get that crowded may be kryptonite for the others. Every local I spoke to confirmed it, and I've experienced it firsthand. On a 4-day trip that included the weekend, I didn't wait more than 3 to 4 minutes, even in lines that look like they take longer. And most often, I didn't really wait at all. Given the type of terrain that you can ski or board here, that pro might make the entire trip worthwhile. Locals say weekends don't have crowds as bad as other resorts, but weekends are of course heavier than weekdays.
All right, to give you a sense of the crowd, Sunday at 1 p.m., going down to the 2 chairlifts at the base, how crowded will they be? Red Lady Express wasn't crowded, neither is the Silver Queen on a Sunday at 1 p.m. Pretty good.
So we're at the top of the high lift T-bar over here to my left. If you veer off to my right here, there's a sign saying that there's no lift access back. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go straight ahead, and you'll see that for some of this terrain, you have to do a little bit of hiking. It is what it is. So Crested Butte got about 9 inches of snow, and it's been several days since they got the snowfall. And as you can see, the snow was kind of soft, but getting a bit crusty, but a soft crusty. And bumps have been developing over the season. This area was a good sort of mini bowl with some random rock formations that you could try and go around if you wanted to. So it's really some steep and pretty bumpy terrain off of the high lift. Whether this next one is a pro or a con depends on your preferences. The town, whether Crested Butte or Mount Crested Butte, is a definite pro if you like a subdued town with a significant amount of ski and ski out options and aren't looking to hit a different restaurant, a different bar every night. So where to stay? If you want to be as close to the mountain as possible, do not stay at Crested Butte. You need to find accommodations at Mount Crested Butte. That's the collection of buildings that is right at the base. The town of Crested Butte is close, but it's not right at the mountain. You'll have to take a shuttle bus, and there are plenty of them up to the base. I'm staying at Mount Crested Butte in an apartment rental that is about a 4-minute walk from the slope, so that's perfect. But if you literally want to be ski in and ski out, there are plenty of options for you too. If you stay anywhere else in Mount Crested Butte, you may need to drive or walk or take the shuttle, and you do have to pay for parking. And the closest lot that I found still has the same walk that I do from my apartment, about a 4-minute walk. When it comes to buying food, there's just one market that appears on Google Maps, and it is very limited in what it has. No raw beef, chicken, or fish. It does have frozen dinner options, but the balance is pretty much snack food. There's also a surprisingly large selection of liquor and wine, given how sparse the food options are. If you actually stay in Crested Butte, you'll have more than one option for a market. Mount Crested Butte has limited restaurant options at the base, and it's highly residential, so you're not going to find much more, if anything, when you go away from the base. You may find more options at Crested Butte, but both towns are what locals describe to me as sleepy. If you want a little bit more nightlife, you could stay in Gunnison and take a bus back and forth between Crested Butte and town. Locals told me that they often run more than 20 buses a day in between Gunnison and Crested Butte. So all of that can be a con. Even when you combine Mount Crested Butte and Crested Butte, you're not going to have a lively town like, certainly not Aspen, but not even Breckenridge or Park City or even Telluride. But depending on what you like, that could also be a pro. The North Face T-Bar. Instead of getting off and going to the immediate left, we're going to go straight ahead, which gives you access to some pretty cool chutes and bowls. They even have signs over here to the right, which show you what to expect. So you can try and pick your line down. It's a good idea to take a picture before you go. Now, one of the downsides is that to get to some of these areas, you do have to hike a little bit.
So this is a bit of a downside about the North Face, that there is quite a bit of hiking to get to some of the terrain, but the payoff may be worth it. So, North Face. You can see, if you look over to the left, you got kind of a standard bowl. We'll head over here a little bit more to the right, where you've got a different type of terrain. More kind of European style, I would say. You got some rock that you've got to navigate your way through. And then further off to the right, if you keep going, you'll get back to some more standard bowl type terrain. Might have to spread my skis a little bit to do that. Right back through here. So nice, kind of soft, cruddy snow. It's not like, as you can see, it's not fresh powder. Got some chunks to it. But some fun stuff. Quick breather here. So you can see if you head over to the right, you've got some really tight lines that you'd have to take because there are a lot of trees. There's some exposed rock that you might not actually see until you're right up on it. And then you could also traverse over here to the left and just rejoin the normal bowl and take an easier way down. I think we'll do it the hard way. So you can see some rock right in the beginning. So what I'm going to do is go around the side, slip down there, and then make my way around. You can see in the shadow, I had this long 4-foot invisible selfie stick, so you can't see it from the camera, but the camera is sitting on top. It's about 4 feet above my head, so I'm going to have to watch out for these branches when I slide down there. Look at all of this rock. Had I gone down straight ahead, I would have had to deal with that. Hopefully, the selfie stick does not get caught. All right, think I got through there. Well, now I can ski a little bit more normally, although it's never quite normal when you ski with a 4-foot selfie stick on your helmet. All right. Right back over here. All right, some good fun here. Got some good snow. And if you head over to the left, you'll get some tree action. If you come to the right, you'll get more bowls with bumps. And if you went even further over to the right, you could get like some nice gully action. Crested Butte is one of those resorts like Alyeska outside of Anchorage that is heavy in black and double black terrain. According to the resort, it's 62% black and double black, 24% intermediate, and 14% beginner. And given that, something to think about, particularly if you're a beginner, is that Crested Butte is a relatively small resort for Colorado with 930 meters of vertical drop and 1,547 skiable acres. Breckenridge has an extra 100 meters of vertical drop and about twice as many skiable acres. Telluride has more than 400 meters more vertical drop and 450 more skiable acres. And outside of Colorado, I always seem to compare everywhere to Snowbird, Utah. So Snowbird is larger too, with 57 meters more vertical drop and 53 more skiable acres. And since I compared it to Alyeska, well, Crested Butte wins on vertical drop, but still loses on skiable acreage. So that small size is a factor in deciding whether or not to put up with the extra effort it takes most people to get here.
For beginners and intermediates, you can also divide the trail map into three. The left side, underneath the Paradise Express lift and their East River Express lift, a lot of that is intermediate terrain. And also down by the Gold Link lift and the Prospect lift, that contains a lot of blue slopes as well. So those two areas are perfect for intermediates. And then beginners have the rest, which is sort of the center right of the trail map. All of that is green terrain. And because most of the beginner terrain is accessible from the Red Lady Express lift, that can tend to get crowded in the morning as all the beginners and intermediates funnel to that lift. But that's crowded by Crested Butte standards. The wait is probably no more than a couple minutes. And as far as the beginner and intermediate terrain, it is great. It's totally wide open. Flat, yet also rolling hills. Even though it's concentrated in just a few areas, there are a whole bunch of different slopes you can take. They're all wide open. Blue runs, nice rolling hills, not too steep, so perfect for any intermediate. Beginner slopes, pretty flat and spread out. A lot better than I've seen at some other resorts like Crystal Mountain or Stevens Pass in Washington, which seem to have a lot less beginner terrain.
One con is the age of the chairlifts. Crested Butte has 15 lifts, 3 of which are magic carpets. So really, it's just 12 chairlifts. Here's the problem. Only 4 of those 12 are detachable high-speed lifts. The remaining 8, 6 of which service predominantly beginner and intermediate terrain, are older, slower, fixed chairlifts. So if you're a beginner, most of the chairlifts that you ride are going to be older, slower lifts. Will Vail Resorts do anything about that now that it owns Crested Butte? Well, we'll see. This next one can be a pro or a con depending on your perspective. Vail Resorts bought Crested Butte a couple years ago, so Crested Butte is now on the Epic Pass. So if you have the Epic Pass, great, it's a pro. How could that be a con? Well, the questions are, will that bring more visitors here, and will the cost of accommodations go up? The track record for resorts that have joined the Epic or Icon Pass on those fronts hasn't been that good. Before I spoke to a local on the chairlift, my sense was yes, those changes are coming. But she said that Crested Butte has already changed. The pandemic. Before 2020, locals could afford to rent in Crested Butte and Mount Crested Butte. But once everyone could work remotely and started fleeing the city, prices went up and locals were forced out. And it hasn't changed. We'll see whether the Epic Pass brings further changes, but for now, the lines are still manageable. So I said we'll see, and now I've seen, because I just rode up the high lift T-bar with a local who actually lives in Mount Crested Butte at the base of the lift in a condo. And unfortunately, after 37 years of being here, he's being forced out because the condo's up for sale and he can't afford the new rent. So while COVID may have started bringing change, as he described it, the Vail Resort purchase of Crested Butte is the final blow.
In my book, I would put food as a con. Crested Butte has 3 on-mountain restaurants. One at the base of the Paradise Express chairlift, another at the top of the Prospect chairlift, and the third along the lower Twister slope. I rarely eat lunch when skiing anymore, but I did stop off for a burger, fries, and a Gatorade at the Paradise restaurant. It cost $21.66 with the Epic Pass discount. My experience, at least at Colorado, Epic, and Icon Resorts, has been that food at Icon Resorts is better than than epic. And the Paradise restaurant was consistent. It didn't surpass the burger I had at Arapahoe Basin a while back, which is an icon resort, though it did beat the burgers at Breck and Keystone, which are epic. But it seems like given the cost of lunch at resorts nowadays, many people are just bringing their own protein bars or their own food in their backpacks, so this con may not be that significant.
What you do, don't let go. Chasing a beach.